our closing keynote speaker. We are so excited, delighted to have the Executive Director of the Illinois Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development as our closing presenter today. Dr. Jamilah Jor'dan is a colleague and a friend who I think brings visionary direction and a rich range of experience to this work. Jamilah is what I would call a true expert. Her background experiences include everything from NACE to Head Start, childcare, faculty perspectives, and family perspectives. And she brings all of those perspectives to her vision of leadership for the state. I think Jamilah was excited when we shared with her that the theme for this year's forum was embracing change and transformation, empowering the essential educator, because at its core, I think that's what Jamilah herself is all about. So Jamilah, that being said, I'm passing the baton to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joni, and good afternoon. And I would like to just take a brief moment to acknowledge our pilot partners on the ECE Credential Competency Project. I have just enjoyed the faculty showcase, and please, as Joni has noted, please extend our thanks to the design teams as well as the marketing and communications teams, and just everyone that you need to bring on board in order to, make an initiative of this magnitude possible. So thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone who's on this afternoon, for this closing of the 14th annual Gateways to Opportunity Higher Education Forum. Embracing change and transformation, empowering the essential educator. However, you will see once my deck comes up that, we always like to add a colon. And so I have added a reimagining Illinois' early childhood education and care mixed delivery system. So I want to say, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Thank you to Teresa, Joni, and the INCRA team, as well as the planning team for the opportunity to, I would like to say, to have this conversation with you this afternoon. On this last day of the Higher Education Forum, I want to acknowledge the week-long observation of the National Association for the Education of Young Children. This year, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Week of the Young Child. So to the faculty, deans, and other administrators, state representatives, and to each one of you, thank you for everything you do on behalf of children, families, and our Illinois workforce. The state panel outlined the efforts that are in progress and that are being proposed as we build back better. So as we reimagine Illinois' early childhood education and care's mixed delivery system, our goal is to create greater coherence and stability for the system so that it has a solid foundation on which to scale up, and it also holds a space for beneficiary voice. Over the last year, in collaboration with several partners, we stood up a statewide Regional Family Advisory Committee. The Family Advisory Committee will have seats on our Illinois Early Learning Council, which represents our intentional efforts to engage families and family voice in the early learning and system governance of this state. This is the first time in the history of the ELC that we have included this structure. So just as a reminder, the Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development, GOECD, serves as the convener and coordinating body across our child and family serving state agencies. So as we focus on embracing change and transformation, I'm going to share information about key initiatives that are guiding the state's efforts as we are imagining or reimagining Illinois' early childhood system. Themes that we heard throughout yesterday's forum include access, quality, child and student centered, academic and social supports, family engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and innovation. We were continually reminded that one size does not fit all when we addressed our practices and our policies. Dr. McIntyre Height referenced the Preschool Development Grant Birth to Five funded ECE competency project as a massive lift. What I will share with you today will require a massive lift and all of us moving in the same direction in order to experience the change and transformation we desire and need for Illinois' children, families, and the workforce. Those initiatives are the Illinois Commission on Equitable Learning, Childhood Education and Care Funding. We refer to it as the commission. The Illinois P20 Council Learning Renewal Efforts, the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund that we refer to as GEAR, the Prenatal to Three Policy Agenda, and finally, the Education and Workforce Equity Act, Public Act 101054, which is part of the Black Caucus pillars, the education pillars. The Illinois Commission on Equitable Early Childhood Education and Care Funding was established in December 2019 to address systemic challenges facing Illinois' early childhood education and care system, and to make recommendations to the governor for how Illinois can improve equitable access to high quality early childhood care and education across the state. The dual crises of the COVID-19 pandemic and our nation's long overdue reckoning with racial injustice have highlighted the need to ensure our system of early childhood education and care is prepared to deliver high quality services to all our children and families, especially those who have been systemically and systematically disenfranchised for far too long. As the current economic crisis has exposed, the long-term economic security of our state depends upon a supported workforce, supported families, and children equipped with the skills they need to reach their potential. Illinois has a history of innovation within the early childhood care and education space. We are seen as a national leader in providing home visiting services. Illinois is one of the first states in the country to make robust investments in childcare. We were one of the earliest states to establish state-funded preschool and include a 0 to 3 set aside in that fund. We pioneered several cross-system supports for the mixed delivery system, such as the Accelerate Quality Ratings and Improvement System, the Gateways to Opportunity Credentialing and Professional Development System, and intentional supports for providers to blend and braid funds. These supports have helped to put Illinois on the map for our ECEC services. However, our system, like that of most states, has its challenges. The charge of the Funding Commission included funding goals, how much increased investment is required to reach funding adequacy, funding mechanism, how should the system of funding be redesigned to promote the Commission's guiding principles, and then implementation, how should management and oversight be structured to implement the new system of funding. I take this opportunity to thank the members of the Funding Commission. Some of you are on this call and are present. And so again, this work of the Funding Commission again represents a massive lift to prepare the recommendations for the governor. The final report was submitted to the governor in March 2021, and it included 3 recommendations. The first recommendation was to advance equity and quality, use a long-term funding goal in policymaking, in envisioning a future system that effectively serves all children and families. We need a collective understanding of the true cost of providing high quality ECE services that meets family needs and respects our providers and workforce as a basis to inform policy and investment decisions as we move forward toward our envisioned future. To make second, recommendation to make sense of the system to centralize the early childhood education and care funding system. The Commission has recommended that the early childhood education and care funding sources be administered and leveraged together in a centralized process and distributed from the state in new ways. This would be different from the current funding mechanism, which is spread across 3 different state agencies and the Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development, which leads to different policies and processes that providers must follow and different funding streams that do not operate on a unified strategy. The Commission also recommended that funding allocation be conducted in new ways. The areas that need additional analysis to ensure equity are early intervention, as well as early childhood special education services, which will be addressed. And the last recommendation is to make it easier for families and providers to make it easier for families and providers and to centralize Illinois' ECE programs into one state agency. The first step to support this recommendation is the creation of community and regional infrastructure that may be referred to as planning councils. We still need to determine the name for what that structure will look like within the state. The next initiative is the Illinois P20 Learning Renewal Initiative. You may have seen the press conference where the governor recently outlined the statewide renewal learning efforts that will be led by members of the Illinois P20 Council. And these conversations will also continue and be part of the Illinois Early Learning Council. So the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted all students and exacerbated existing challenges in our education system. Interruptions to traditional learning have impacted students both academically and social and emotionally. Lower income students and students of color were more likely to experience extended periods of disrupted learning. Yesterday, I shared with you 2 evaluation reports during the state panel. The first evaluation report that I shared was the pyramid model, and the second was the Infinite Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation. I appreciate Pat Chamberlain's comment in referencing these evaluations in this report, and that, first of all, these recommendations from these 2 reports that I shared yesterday will inform our work as we scale up to support the learning, renewal, and social emotional needs of our children and families and the workforce. However, Pat's comment, which I took note of, she said, in referencing these supports, she said, they are connected in my head. And Pat is correct. It is our goal to connect and embed both within our early childhood system as we move forward. There is an emphasis within our state on academic recovery and social emotional supports as we move forward with building back our system as led by the Illinois P20 Council. And as I mentioned, we will have ongoing discussions in the Early Learning Council. To address these needs through partnerships and collaboration, the Governor's Office of Early Childhood Development will lead learning renewal efforts in the following areas: infant and early childhood mental health consultation, technology supports and materials for early intervention telehealth, and the third area is enrollment, the development of an enrollment campaign for early childhood education. As stated earlier, in strengthening our approaches to supporting quality, we plan to embed the pyramid model approach as well as infant and early childhood mental health throughout the early childhood training infrastructure, and to bring the consultation supports to scale. Infant and early childhood mental health consultation is available where young children learn, grow, and play. The pandemic has highlighted the need for increased social emotional supports for Illinois' youngest children, their families, and our early childhood educator workforce. Illinois is one of few states to offer infant and early childhood mental health consultation services across multiple systems that serve children and families. Offering this consultation and home visiting programs, early intervention, center-based, and school-based programs ensure that wherever children are learning, consultants can support the social and emotional development that is foundational for their future. Regardless of funding stream, consultants bring consistent supports to enhance the capacity of the early childhood workforce. Illinois is investing in the professional development of infant and early childhood mental health consultants. We will increase the number of consultants across the state. Nearly 200 infant and early childhood mental health consultants have participated in the orientation to the Illinois model. And there are many more who are eager to partner with early childhood education, care, and programs across the state. However, we need more consultants. Our aim is to reduce the wait time for providers, making it easier to access this critical social emotional support. Additionally, GOECD intends to streamline the professional development of infant and early childhood mental health consultants. These efforts are aligned with what our elected officials have included in the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Education and Workforce Equity Act, Public Act 101-0654, specifically the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation Act. In addition, we are planning a public awareness campaign to promote infant and early childhood mental health consultation. We have found as part of the study, as well as our outreach, that individuals are not familiar with infant and early childhood mental health consultation. During my tenure at Chicago State University, I developed an infant and early childhood mental health online course. For those of you present today, faculty, administrators, and others, please know that you're among the key stakeholders and that we need your support in these efforts in the increased development of courses as well as professional development so that we can address this area. In early intervention, we are also providing federal funding to address early intervention. Through COVID-19, several inequities have been illuminated within the early intervention system, which supports the families of an infant or toddler with a disability or developmental delay. Two of the most pervasive inequities are the lack of access to technology to receive early intervention via telehealth services and the absence of culturally responsive materials for linguistically diverse families to assist them in understanding the current service delivery options. In partnership with the Bureau of Early Intervention at the Illinois Department of Human Services and the Early Intervention Clearinghouse, GOECD will utilize federal funds to address these disparities to help families support their young children as they work towards meeting their developmental milestones by providing technology for early intervention telehealth and developing culturally responsive materials in multiple languages. In addition, we are also dedicating federal funding to develop an early childhood enrollment campaign. We are facing a challenge within our state. Enrollment is down across the early childhood programs within our state due to the pandemic. We're seeing notable declines in enrollment in our child care assistance program, our early Head Start and Head Start program, our preschool for all, Enrollment is down in our kindergarten programs, and referrals are also down across Illinois' home visiting programs that work on parenting skills and family bonding within the home, as well as early intervention. These programs are of critical importance as they often provide families with support in their homes and children with their first educational experiences outside of the home. We know from past disruptions that enrollment is not likely to fully or quickly recover without focused family and community efforts to rebuild families' comfort with placing their children in formal early childhood programs. To address the need for increased communication to families and to identify and address the barriers preventing families from enrolling in early childhood education and care programs, the state will allocate federal funds to support the development and implementation of an early childhood enrollment campaign. As part of this campaign, GOECD will convene a early childhood enrollment campaign state team comprised of program and communication representatives from our child and family serving organizations that include the State Board of Education, Department of Human Services, the Department of Children and Family Services, the Department of Public Health, the Illinois Head Start Association, as well as INCRA and Chicago Public Schools. Convening leadership across key agencies and organizations will support the collaboration and ensure alignment on behalf of the state in our outreach to families. We plan to engage an advertising and marketing firm with input from families that will facilitate the development of an early childhood awareness and enrollment campaign that has a statewide reach, is tailored locally, and focuses on family engagement strategies that promote the importance and availability of early childhood programs to families. The next initiative is the Prenatal to 3 policy agenda in coalition. GOECD, we serve as a co-lead along with Start Early. If you remember, Start Early was previously the Ounce of Prevention. And so there continues to be an increased investments in infant and toddler work within our state. The Preschool Development Grant, the PDGB-5, has been an opportunity to advance the Prenatal to 3 agenda. This represents a collective effort to close the opportunity gap for our earliest learners. In Illinois, only 25% of infants and toddlers have access to licensed childcare, and only 5% of infants and toddlers have access to high quality care. As next steps, Illinois needs to increase access to services that exist through enrollment or expansion efforts. We need to improve the quality of existing programs and services. And finally, to implement new services or innovations that are needed. Illinois is part of a national movement of 19 states funded by the Pritzker Children's Initiative to move the prenatal to 3 work forward. It is a public-private partnership, and the coalition is the collective effort to implement the P and 3 agenda statewide. As we think about our impact goal is that 100,000 more expected families and infants and toddlers will receive services and supports they need by 2025. The Prenatal to 3 agenda also aligns with key state initiatives, in that we are very intentional about the Prenatal to 3 agenda not moving outside of the system, but within the system and in tandem with other state initiatives. And so that includes the Funding Commission recommendations, which I shared with you, as well as the as well as the Preschool Development Birth to 5 strategic plan. So again, the Prenatal to 3 agenda aligns with those key initiatives. The 4 policy goals as part of the agenda are healthy parents and babies, high quality early learning, economically secure families, and a strong infrastructure. So I always, again, I have another call to action that for all of you today is that we need more coursework as well as professional development in this area. And so, please consider how you can support our efforts within each of your respective institutions. I wanted Pat Chamberlain to hear that I did make a note following your presentation yesterday and the reflection that you shared, that how important infantile work is in our state, and what can we do for infants and toddlers to address linguistic diversity. So Pat, I want you to know that I did make a note of that. I also made a note of Dr. Kuhl's presentation yesterday when she affirmed for us the importance of addressing the need to support and provide resources and supports for our linguistically and culturally diverse population of infants and toddlers. And so, as well as their families, and certainly the science that supports that. And so, to both of you, please know that I have made a note of your reflections. So thank you. I wanted to share with you a large legislation that's actually, guiding our work within the early childhood space. The Education and Workforce Equity Act, Public Act 1010654. Some of you may remember that it was referenced as House Bill 2170. It's a multifaceted legislation addressing many issues in the Illinois P20 education system, with an overall emphasis on strengthening racial equity within the system. The legislation expands access, equity, and opportunity within the system, and the legislation strengthens the state's priorities in delivering high-quality learning from cradle to career. It also has a heightened equity focus on communities that have been disproportionately impacted by longstanding disinvestments. There's a number of areas that are applicable to our work that is part of this legislation. The first is the Equitable Early Childhood Education Care Act, which it expresses the General Assembly's support for the work of the Commission on Equitable Funding for Early Childhood Education and Care, and for moving forward with implementation planning. It also includes the Early Childhood Workforce Act, which expresses the General Assembly's recognition of the importance of a diverse and well-qualified early childhood workforce, and the various serious challenges currently facing that workforce, including low compensation and limited accessibility of pathways to completing degrees and credentials, and encourages departments to invest in scholarships, targeted coaching and financial supports, and other strategies to increase degree and credential attainment. It also prioritizes moving towards compensation parity as funding becomes available. Also included is the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation Act, which expresses the General Assembly's recognition of the crucial importance of young children's social emotional development and the importance of infant and early childhood mental health consultation as a strategy to support that development. It encourages departments to increase the availability of infant and early childhood mental health consultation and the pyramid model supports as funds are available. It also calls for the development of materials to educate parents about infant and early childhood mental health services. And it also asks that we provide the data required by Public Act 105, if you remember, that was related to suspension and expulsion. Even if the data, if the data is incomplete, they are still wanting to track that data. The Act also includes the request to form the whole child task force, which was created for the purpose of establishing an equitable, inclusive, safe, and supportive environment in all schools for every student within the state. I'm just going to share with you a few of the goal summaries. You can access, the information, but they want to make sure our General Assembly wants to make sure that we create a common definition of what we are define as a trauma responsive school, a trauma responsive district, and a trauma responsive community. They are calling for us to outline the training and resources required to create and sustain a system of support for trauma responsive schools, districts, and communities, and to identify the state's role in that work. They also recommend an implementation timeline, including roles, responsibilities, and resources to advance the state towards a system in which every school district, and community is progressing towards becoming trauma responsive. The Act also includes the Early Education Act, which expresses the General Assembly recognition of the urgent value of early intervention services. And there's a number of items that are included as part of the Early Education Act. The Act also creates the data governance and organization to support equity and racial justice. This legislation requires that agencies report data on race and ethnicity for program participants and major programs at each agency, and that agencies denote a standardized set of demographic markers for reporting. The legislation calls for establishing data governance, which is critical to being able to create the data infrastructure necessary to ensure the state can report by demographics and race to allow for equitable service provision. We have made investments in the longitudinal data system 2.0 as part of our preschool development grant, Birth to Five, and I'm pleased to inform you that the child care participation database is the first use case as part of that system. So the question here is, what if? We are exploring with our state agency partners, as well as the Illinois Head Start Association, the development of cross-system data collection, supporting the vision of aligned and supported data use within the state of Illinois. So as you can see, the Act is really inclusive. It uses equity and fairness as guiding principles to improve outcomes across early childhood education, primary and secondary education, higher education, and workforce development. The governor has noted that much has been accomplished here, but there's more work. There's more work to be done. So as I'm coming and nearing my closing, I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you some breaking news that I have received. Again, as we continue our investment through with the opportunity of our preschool development grant, Birth to Five, we have funding opportunities for higher ed institutions to participate in collaborative work. And the first is the Gateway's credential renewal fees will be waived. So we are supporting through the PDGB 5 renewals. Credentials must be renewed every 5 years. And as you know, there's a $65 renewal fee. We have found, thanks to INCRA and data collection, the barrier for the workforce is the $65 fee. So we did see very high numbers of individuals in our workforce who hold credentials, but being unable to pay the $65 renewal fee during the pandemic. So we are delighted that we're making the statewide, that we will be making a statewide announcement shortly about waiving the Gateway's credential renewal fees for our underpaid early childhood workforce. So do know this is breaking, when I say breaking news, it is breaking news. Assessment of prior learning, we are also going to support collaborative work between and among institutions, focusing on how we can expand opportunities for our diverse workforce to evidence prior learning assessment. And so, please watch for that information. We are also supporting through our PDGB-5 grant the Gateways and Infant Toddler Credential project, similar to the ECE Credential Competency Project that's now in pilot. We will embark on an ITC competency build out in a virtual space as well. So watch for that. And then finally, we are funding a pathway design for Gateways ECE Credential Level 5 to the Professional Educator License to PAL. So again, the goal being to develop a more clearly defined pathway that includes competencies in order to be more cohesive between and among institutions that provides transparency for our workforce who holds a ECE Level 5 credential and who wants to gain a PAL. So we are again supporting these initiatives through our preschool development grant Birth to 5, and we welcome, watch for additional information, and we welcome your support and collaboration. So I've shared the breaking news. So I want you, in closing, to leave you with this call to action and a shared vision as we are reimagining Illinois' early childhood education and care system. You have seen this statement before, and I'll put it before you again, from our governor. Illinois will become the best state in the nation for families raising young children. We need each one of you to help us and support us in these efforts. It's been a pleasure to join you today. We invite you to sign up for our monthly newsletter on the GOECD website. You also have my email address, and feel free to email me if you have additional questions or if you have some ideas. I'm always interested in what else can we do and what else can we do more of. Again, I thank you, I thank you, and I thank you again for the opportunity to close the 14th Annual Gateways to Opportunity Higher Education Forum. Thank you again for everything that you do on behalf of our children, our families, and our workforce. Be well.
Thank you very much, Jamilah. That was a wonderful presentation for us to close the forum out with.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. I do encourage people, if they had some questions they wanted to call out, they could put them in the chat box. I have not seen any, but both you and I can kind of keep an eye on that here in terms of if someone has something they'd like us to be addressed. We don't know exactly what's coming in 2021, right? Embracing change and transformation seems to be probably our new go-to, right? Not in a million years would have I projected a pandemic back in March of 2020 and the impact that that has had over the last year. So there is no way that I am going to venture any type of projections about what might happen in 2021. We're just going to have to wait and see, right? The only things that we really do know for sure is that change will be part of this year. And all I really control is my choice in how I meet those changes, how I might transform and take advantage when and where it's possible. Jamilah was just sharing some very late breaking, cutting edge news and announcements about opportunities that will be coming up, that will be available for faculty within our state that will impact early childhood teacher preparation based on some of the information that was shared yesterday also from Dr. Teresa Hawley and Jesse Reyes with the governor's office. I anticipate there may be additional funding opportunities that may well be able to support our early care and education workforce in gaining degrees and credentials over these next couple of years. So all of those are changes perhaps in how we potentially do business and how we currently are operating. We may need to make some small changes or some large changes in order to really help embrace and support our workforce as they in turn embrace and support the children and families within our state. A few closing thoughts here in terms of next steps. One is that the resources that that have been available to you throughout the forum that are in the Dropbox, including a couple of those big reports. And I've had several of you make comments on those reports in the chat box kind of privately, like, can I share this? Can we put this on Twitter? Can I send this out? Absolutely, you can. We'll keep that Dropbox open for at least the next 30 days. Several of you had also indicated you would love to share some clips, if you will, of maybe from Dr. Kuhl's presentation with some of your students. Her presentation was recorded. We will try to get that posted next week so that you might be able to access that. Every single year, as soon as the forum closes, we send out an evaluation survey. It goes out by SurveyMonkey. It's a link that'll come out from Teresa. Your feedback is very important. The very first thing we do every year when we start thinking about the next year's forum is we pull up that survey information and we try to use everyone's comprehensive and collective feedback as we shape the forum for what will be 2022. I want you to also please mark your calendar. The virtual conversation, take 3. So this will be our 3rd virtual conversation, has been scheduled now for a while for Monday, May 3rd, 2021. We've been inviting faculty on a quarterly basis for an hour from 8 to 9 in the morning to join various state agency presenters in just sharing information, discussion, virtual conversation. We rely heavily upon faculty to submit questions, topics, things that they would like discussed during those virtual conversations. The sooner, the earlier you can share your ideas, the sooner we know which agency reps it's most important to have be part of those conversations. We have a standing agreement, I think, with Illinois College Board and Illinois Board of Higher Ed to have representation at each of those virtual conversations, but the governor's office and Illinois State Board of Education can also be invited to join us if there are topics that you would like considered or included that would be relevant to having those representatives speak to those topics. We also, during one of our interest sessions today, we talked a lot about NAEYC and how we fit within the Illinois Gateway's ECE competencies, how that fits within the NAEYC structure. And that is a work group kind of forming on that on faculty. Make sure you let Stephanie Helmer know. We've got her email address here if you're interested in being a partner in that work. So as I'm just going to check here real quick to see if there's anything else in the chat box. Okay, Julie just put in the SurveyMonkey in the chat box to everyone so that you can fill out your feedback. Give us your responses to the forum. We had toyed with the idea, let's move to the last slide here. We had toyed with the idea of putting a 1:15 close on today, but we decided to give ourselves until 1:30, knowing that when and if we're able to dismiss early, everyone's heart is happy. And if we go 2 or 3 minutes over, most of us are looking at our clocks and we've either scheduled something else in follow up or we're trying frantically to figure out how to kind of disconnect and move on to the next thing. So you are going to get back about 20 minutes in your day. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Thank you for joining us at the forum. I hope that you found it as informative as I did. And I'm really gonna ask one more time, when you think about change and transformation, when you think about the invitation that's been extended and what would it take for our system to really help support our workforce in gaining almost 20,000 teachers in gaining associate degrees, ECE credential level 4, in another 8,000 or 9,000 in gaining bachelor degrees and either a Pell or an ECE level 5 or both. What would it take? What's needed? So I really want to leave you with that thought. Keep thinking, because I have a feeling 2021 is going to be another big year of change and transformation. So Jamilah, heartfelt thanks to you for your partnership on the state panel yesterday, for closing out today. Greatly appreciated.
You're welcome, Joni. Thank you again for the invitation. Thank you.
You're welcome. And a big thank you to Teresa. If you can find your reaction button and you can give her a wave or a high five for having hosted and convened this, please do so. I know this has been a high stress 2 days with trying to move all of us in and out and keep everything flowing. And Teresa has done an incredible job. Thank you, Teresa. Do you have any closing comments for everyone? She's waving goodbye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
All right. Have a great weekend. Thank you all. Bye.